Well, I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate all you guys taking time out of your day. Coach and I were talking earlier about how Zoom is, changing the game, and if you've taken this time through the quarantine to get better and learn things, and even if you're not going to use them, it's always nice to see what other coaches are doing and how the game is changing, how it's been played in different parts of the world. We're here in Texas, so obviously, Texas as a state has a reputation for football, but it's been interesting seeing how other coaches survive in other states and the things that they do and how they run programs. So I think even if you're not going to use something that you see as far as a schematic, seeing how other coaches live and the way that we all do things and how we all care about our kids and our programs, I think that's pretty much a universal idea. Before we get just going, I just want to introduce myself a little bit. I've been a Texas coach for 12 years. Down here we do teaching and coaching. I've coached the 4A, 5A, and 6A levels in Texas. 6A is the largest classification that we have. I kind of came up before I got into 6A coaching offense and defense, and I've talked to people before, especially if you're a young coach. I think it's always great to coach both sides of the ball, especially if you have designs to be a head coach or a coordinator, because if you can't look out on the field and see what the other team is doing and knowing how those linebackers are being coached to read blocks or how the secondary is being taught, you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage. So I coached a D-line for 6 years until I got to the 6A level. My program, we only coach one side of the ball. I played my college ball at the University of Pennsylvania, so I was a tight end, as I was telling Coach back in the day when tight ends actually had to block. As before those guys came in and just basically became glorified receivers. If I got my Twitter handle on there, and a lot of good stuff is coming on Twitter handle now, so if you want to give me a follow, I'm going to follow you back, and hopefully we can learn something from each other. So basically, we are an up-tempo offense for what we do. We don't like to slow down. We do not huddle at all. So we play at a relatively fast pace all the time. If you're going to be a team that wants to play at a up-tempo, you've really got to establish a base offense, and you got to simplify. We don't use a lot of blocking rules. We keep our blocking rules fairly simple. We're not going to be one of those teams that counts on zone, 0, 1, 2, 3. And I'm not knocking that. I'm just simply saying for what we do, in order to go fast, we try to keep it as simple as we can, especially for the O-lineman. You got to have a communication system that's going to be dummy-proof. One of the things I hate to hear is "Coach, I thought." So when you're talking about establishing a communication system for whatever type of offense that you're going to run, obviously you want to eliminate the "Coach, I thought." So we don't do wristbands. Nothing against wristbands, but I don't want kids looking down to see a wristband when they could be looking up and seeing what we're signaling and seeing what's going on the field. So we signal everything from our formations and our plays. And like I said, whatever you want to use, keep it simple. And then the other thing is we're multiple. We are not just a 2x2, 3x1 team. I guess you'd call us a power spread team. We want to use as many multiple formations as we can. We keep our kids' responsibilities and rules consistent. If you want to run 12,000 plays, that's great. But I'd rather have 12,000 formations, 6 plays, and my kids know what to do every single time before the whistle snapped. So we eliminate mistakes and we eliminate teaching times by trying to keep things as consistent as possible. So what we do in our NASCAR package, and basically in our hurry-up offense, which we run all the time, we've knocked down to gap schemes, zone schemes, and man schemes. So what we run is power and power read. So we run power a lot. We run power read to protect that. We run counter and variations of counter. We keep our rules simple. We are a gap-down backer team. We teach a simple 45-degree angle step. I am the offensive line coach. So that allows me to pretty much control the tempo of the game. The quarterback might be the steering wheel and the receivers might be the wheels, but without the engine, which is the O-line, we're not going to be able to get the car running. So I like to be able to control that. We teach stay on track is one of our key coaching points. We take a 45-degree angle step. We want to stay on that track, and we're going to block anything that comes on our track, and they want to know the point of attack. Our base or man blocking is basically my 5 block your 5. That could be your duo, that could be your ISO, it could be dive, whatever you might want to call it. And we may fold against 4s, but it's basically going to be my 5 block and your 5. For their zone schemes, we'll run a zone read, and that's traditional. We're going to read the in-man line of scrimmage, an inside zone, and stretch. So with our, as I mentioned earlier, with our zone blocking rules, we're not going to do any counting. We're going to work in the direction of the play. We're going to double team as much as possible, and we're going to call the book. So one of the things that our line does is call the book, and any of our plays where we're reading a player, that's the book because we want to read him. So for our gap down backer schemes, like power and power read, we block it exactly the same. So for power and power read on the play side, it's going to be a gap down blocker scheme. Does not matter if it's power read. And it's blocked exactly the same for us. We're going to pull a backside guard, and we're going to hinge block the tackle. One of the things that I do allow my guys to do, and it's not built in so I don't have to call it, is a me-you call. So if we're playing a team that's got a nasty little 3 technique or a 4-eye and he's just beating that tackle inside, we'll allow the tackle to pull and we'll base block with the guard. So I don't have to make a call for another play. I don't have to do anything like that. We've practiced it throughout the week. They know the look they want to use it against, and so they'll make that call. If you're utilizing gap schemes, the play side rules on these plays are all the same. So power, read, and counter, and we teach it in that order so that the play side rules are all the same. And once again, the whole key here is to spend less time on assignments and more time on technique and playing fast. So we run counter and a variety of counter. Okay, so we have what we call counter and counter stay. So on the bottom picture we're looking at here is your traditional counter blocking. So you'll see that we gap down backer on the play side. We'll pull kick with the guard, pull seal with the tackle. And with the other variations of that, we have counter stay. Sorry about that. You know how it is with kids. With our other counter variations of stay, we have a sniffer look and an inline tight end. And these are all the same play. It's just going to be based on the formation. And so when we make the call, depending on the formation, they'll know who's pulling and who's not. So it's not like I have 13 different calls for counter. It's either regular counter or counter stay. And then the kids know based on the formation who's the kick and who's the pull. For our zone schemes, once again, you know who the book is and who we're reading. For our traditional zone read, we're going to read the in-man line of scrimmage. That will be the book, right? And that'll be who the quarterback's read is. For our inside zone, what we call inside zone, will be the schematic right here where we're going to read an inside linebacker. Okay. Now, we pair RPOs with all these in our NASCAR package, what I'll get to in just a second. But so as far as we know, we have our first level read and a second level read. Same thing with our RPOs. We'll have first level reads, second level reads, third level reads. But we're always going to call the book on the O-line so that they know who it is that we're going to be reading. With stretch for us, it's just a full zone. Our RPO off that is going to be quarterback RPO, and he'll do it off of a defensive back. But for just a regular stretch play, right, it's a full zone block for us. So as was mentioned earlier, we run a variety of formations. We just don't stick in 2x2 by 3x1. If you were to talk to a defensive coordinator, and I know some of you guys are on here are defensive coaches, if I'm giving you multiple formations that you have to practice, spending time teaching your kids to get aligned to, it's more time that you're not worrying about what I'm doing necessarily as far as tendencies and stuff like that. I'm forcing you to spend time in your practice learning how to line up to the formations that I'm going to run. We have been fortunate to where we don't have to change personnel a lot of the times to do that, which is an added advantage. Because if I'm running guys on and off the field, you've got your coaches up in the box taking time to, hey, here comes the hippo package, here comes the heavy package. But if I'm using the same guys that are on the field, jumping into multiple formations while not huddling up, snapping the ball as soon as I can, I'm really going to put a defensive coordinator in bind. So, if you're a coach and you've got some of those hybrid guys who, could be a tight end, doesn't want to put his hand on the ground all the time, or a running back that can catch the ball as well, you can stick them as a sniffer back. Anything that you can do to, add a formation without having to change what you do, just gives yourself the ability to put the defense in more of a bind. So this is an example of some of the formations that we'll run. Of course, you go left, you go right. We've got heavy packages as well, but I can jump into all these formations here without having to change personnel a lot of the times. and then be able to run my NASCAR package. So when we start talking about NASCAR, what we mean by that is a packaged plays. It's up-tempo once again. We're not going to huddle up. So if you wanted to get to a faster pace type team, in my opinion, you're going to have to do three things real quick. We script everything as much as possible. We don't go into a practice just off the cuff ever. We script our team. We script our inside run. We script 7-on-7. We want to practice as fast as possible. And so having a script, where all the coaches are on the same page, we know what we're going to do, allows us to play fast. A lot of the times we'll have a backup quarterback or a middle school coach read the script, and I'll have my signalers signaling during that time so that the kids are, my coaches can go even faster, because on a Friday night, I'm up in the box telling them what we're calling, and then they're signaling. A lot of your coaches must invest, hurry up, no huddle offense or up tempo is going to change the way you do things. Some of the resistance that I've run into in the past has been, if you've been a coach for a while, when you get to your team sessions, you're doing things, a lot of those coaches will want to slow things down and get kids lined up perfectly. We're not going to do that. When we get into our team session, we're going to go as fast as we can. I'm not going to worry that the spec ops team, which is what we call our attack team, isn't lined up perfectly. It's something that I'm going to live with. And to be honest with you, what they learn is when you're playing fast and you're not giving teams a chance to line up, kids aren't always going to be where you draw them up to be. So they get that experience of, hey, whatever coach calls, we're going to go with it, and I'm going to block who's there. We supplant this with watching film. We film everything. We have managers who come out and volunteer, and they film. We like to say Super 6A, so we'll have an end zone camera. We've got drones. We've got all that stuff. So we spend a lot more time watching film and correcting it on that rather than stopping our team sessions or stopping our inside run sessions. Okay. And then there's no half measures. Once you decide that you want to play the pace very fast, the kids learn to love it and they want to go fast. Many times, in the last 2 years, I've had kids get on the headset and say, Coach, we're not going fast enough. Right. So when we start to slow down, our performance would drop. We have different tempos, like most up-tempo teams, but when we're at our peak, when we're going to run over the umpire to get the ball set, I've been fortunate enough to have a head coach who, while he has a defensive background, trusts our offensive staff to do what's going to be best for our team. So, we're able to go at the pace that we want to go with very little restrictions on us, even in tight games. So we're able to keep our up-tempo going on most of the time. This is an example of our scripting and our practice plan. If you're familiar with Coach Vint, this is where I got it. You'll see that, we use Google Docs. And if you're not a Google Doc person, it's a great advantage to use because it allows us to get things done without having to email it to each other or wait for the receivers coach to get his job done. Or they're not waiting on me to get stuff done. We could work on it at the same time. And so, especially as, we move into the age of Zoom and doing things online, I think it's just another tool that you can use to save time for yourself and for your coaches. So this is an example of our practice schedule. And then when we start talking about scripting, this is an example of our script. Now I'm going to show you how we get this done fast. What we do is use a card to call our defenses. So our kids don't line up on defense. They don't have a coach with a clipboard or with a big blue card telling them how to line up. What they're listening for are these numbers. Okay. So what our spec ops card looks like is this right here. So each week, during the week when we're doing our scout, I'll draw up how the defense is going to align to our formations and some of their most popular blitzes and stunts. Then I'll create this play card. I use Playmaker Pro to make it. You can make it however you need to. But what the defense is going to be listening for is, say, like 2 yellow. So without them having to huddle up, without a coach having to stop and do anything, our other O-line coach is yelling out 2 yellow. So they're listening for 2, which will tell them how to line up. And if they got the yellow arrow, well, hey, I'm the guy who's blitzing. So these are our spec up guys, or our seniors who, aren't starters or second team guys on defense. They're JV players who could help us maybe on next year. So there's some of your top tier JV A-team guys who will come over and play defense for us. So you'll see that, I've got the 8 cards there that I can jump through for any formation that we need to get any type of blitz or stunt from them. A lot of the times before we start practice that week, I'll gather those guys up, pass out the wristbands to them, and give it to them. Now, if you're wondering why it's upside down, because that's how I'm looking at the defense. So you can see that that will save us a lot of time. I've actually got an example of our practice film here. You'll see that there's no defensive coaches here. These 3 guys are all offensive coaches. That's me in the middle. These are our second team guys who are waiting to jump in. But we've got 3 offensive coaches here. All these defensive guys got heads, have the wristbands on, and the coach is simply calling out what defense they're going to line up in, right? So we're not sitting there wasting a whole lot of time stopping to get a card out, flip through a band, flip through a book or whatever. The most type of formation adjustments we'll have to make is simply what you're seeing right there. Move over. And our offense is doing the same thing. We don't huddle up. We're simply calling the one-word play call that we're using, and we're running it through. So we can get 15 minutes of inside run, but I can get almost 40 plays to 30 plays on a good day of inside run from between my 1s and the 2s, because I'm not wasting time with lining kids up or, hey, coach, what does this mean? What does that mean? They look at the wristband. So another example that we have of going and playing fast is what we call a half-line read drill. So we could talk about playing fast, but I'm showing you guys some of the things that we do in order to get that done. This is a drill that we use for our quarterbacks. Now, these are our younger kids. And this is one of the first times we were doing it this spring before we got into quarantine. But what we do is we line up half line. So this would be the right side of the ball. Over here would be the left side of the ball. I'll have a quarterback and a running back jump in. I will dictate the read. The quarterback is going to run the play. So as soon as he runs the play and makes the read, we jump over to the other side and give it a different look, right, with the same quarterback, and then we'll run the play. And then we'll go back over to the right side with a different quarterback and a different running back, maybe change the formation and run the play. So we're able to run through real quick, getting quarterbacks reads. Our O-line is working on their line calls, working on their blocks, and we're able to watch the quarterbacks reads and simulate an up-tempo type look without having to have pads on. We'll do it with pads on when the season starts, but this teaches them to be able to move fast, right, recognize the defense, how they're lined up, and then make the right read. One of the other drills that we use for our receivers is called basically playmaker drill. Okay? So what it is each one of these receivers has a ball. There's a defensive back lined up behind them. There's a coach standing at the back of the end zone. He will designate which one of these guys is going to run the football. So once he runs the football, all 4 of these guys have to try to make a tackle. So you'll see the coach back of the end zone here. He will point and say who's going to run the ball. Once he points, this guy will take off, and then they've got to make the tackle. So they're working on – your defensive backs are working on making tackles in space. My guys are working on making the first guy miss and trying to gain positive yards. Wherever they fall down, the ball is set. Right? As soon as they're all set, the coach is pointing at the next receiver, and we're going again. And we'll go down – right, until we score, and those guys are lining up. As you see, they're already moving up. Every one of them has a ball in their hand, right, and wherever the tackle is made, we're going. As soon as the coach points, boom, it's off the races. If we score, we go back down. We start with another 4 receiver, and we start the reps again. So it's a good way to get one-on-one reps with your receivers in a fast-paced environment, right, where they've got a ball in their hand and they're learning to make a guy miss and get up the field, and it works your defensive backs too because they're learning to make tackles in space. Okay, so those are 3 things that we do in practice to simulate the speed of the game for us as fast as we want to go. The third thing that we're doing is going to put it all together. Now, I'm not an air raid guy, so that's not why I have Coach Leach up there. But he's infamous for having the little note card of a little piece of paper, right? The simplicity of in which he does his offense. So for us, we want to be multiple information and simplification in our RPOs. As I've recapped earlier, defensive formation coaches hate to see a lot of alignments, a lot of different formations. If you can do this without changes in personnel, you got a bigger advantage. Now, we keep our RPO menu fairly small because we want it to be flexible. It's got to fit 90% of what we run. We practice our QB reads, right, and we keep it consistent. And it's not about how much you can call. You can go on Twitter and you can go on the Zoom clinics and learn all these different plays, but if your kids can't execute it consistently, it's not going to do you any good. So for us, this is what NASCAR means. It's individual plays. They're set to the boundary or to the field. So I'm going to show you a list, but we'll determine which way we want to run the ball. It's either going to be to the stretch, to the field, base to the boundary, and it's preset. So what that means is if I've called base, if we're in NASCAR and it's base and we're on the left hash, they're running to the left hash. If we're on stretch to the field and we're on the left hash, they're running stretch to the field every single time. I'm not having to call that. It's preset. Each play has a built-in RPO. So whatever plays we're running has an RPO that's built into it automatically. Once again, we're not calling it. As far as formations, we have them set up to the field or to the boundary. So all of our twins or trips formations are going to be automatically set to the field. Anything that has a pro set with a tight end will be set with a tight end to the boundary. What that allows us to do is say if you're in 3x1 on the left hash and we jump into NASCAR, play runs to the right hash, they automatically set the trips to the field. I'm not having to change the formation. Now, we can change the formation if we need to. Speed is the key. So, if we're in 3x1 and I want to change it to a 2x2 or a sniffer look, I can do that on the run, and the kids will just line up and get it done. Then we incorporate our drop back and sprint out games, and they're always called to the field. So an example of what a NASCAR menu looks like is this. So this is one of our games on the road. We are coming out in our third series here. We started off pretty slow. So we're going to jump into NASCAR as fast as possible. Now, this is a static camera. I'm not sure if anybody uses it, but what that means is during the game, this isn't cut in clips. So during each series, the guy who's filming our games, he just pushes record. So it doesn't stop recording in between plays. Now, the variety of reasons we want to do this. One is we're an up-tempo team. I want to see, are the receivers running to the line of scrimmage? Do I see their heads looking to our sideline to get the formation? Is my running back and quarterback, right, running up to the line of scrimmage? Are my linemen getting set as fast as possible? Right, so it allows me to critique how fast we're playing. What does our body language look like? What's our sideline operations going? So a static camera is a great investment if you can get somebody, a filmer to help you out, and all they've got to do is record between series without pushing stop. So for NASCAR, this is about as fast as we want to go. We're going to line up, run the play, right? As soon as we get set, you'll see my kids are running to get lined up. They'll find the ball. We want to snap the ball as soon as the umpire gets out of the way. So we're set. We're running the play. You'll see the chains aren't even set yet, and we're moving. Okay. At this point, the only way we do NASCAR is I simply call a number. Okay. So the only thing they're seeing from the sideline is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the number may be. That tells them the play. Quarterback determines which direction it's going. Most of the kids know already because we're on the hash and they're running the play. So I'll let this run. You'll see this is just a 2-minute basically series here where we come out and this is our NASCAR the entire time. You'll see that we're getting it set as fast as possible. As soon as we can get set and they blow the whistle, we're running it. Now, here's the deal. We can jump in and out of NASCAR if we want. So if we're going NASCAR and we're going 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, and I want to change the play, we can change it. So we'll get a big play there. You'll see my guys are sprinting. Now, my guard here is about 360 pounds and 5'10", and his big butt is getting right on the field and getting set. Right, so these are the things I'm looking to critique on my receivers. You'll see them. They've already set. They've got the signal. Chains are trying to catch up. One of the great advantages of going fast and having this type of thing set up is if you'll look down here, these coaches have been trying to get kids in. Coach will walk down here, even try to get a timeout call, but we're going so fast, they're not able to get those personnel in. And if you're, an offensive line coach like me, you hate to see fresh bodies running there on the D-line. Well, my guys are out there struggling throughout an entire series, and so we'll go down the field, not giving them an opportunity to sub in. So we'll get the score there. So that's an example of what our NASCAR wants to go fast. So what we do and the way we set it up. is it's a list of 0 through 10. So we will add a second digit if we want to have motion from it. But a basic NASCAR package would look something like this. We use freeze. If you don't know what freeze is when we try to fake the defense offsides. So that's always 0. We would set up, say, 1 with base to the boundary. So regardless of where we are on the field, if they hear 1, 1, 1, they know that it's base with stops. A stop RPO, and I'll go through RPOs as well. A zone read is to the field. Counters to the field. Power read to the field. Power to the boundary. So they know automatically, just based on the number 4, what the play is. The only thing they're waiting to see is which hash are we on? Question we often get is, what about the middle of the field? If we're in the middle of the field, then I let my quarterback call it as far as direction. That way he's not looking to the sideline. They're not waiting on me to say go left or right. They know if it's on the left hash, certain plays are automatically going right, certain plays are automatically going left. But if we're in the middle of the field, we're kind of in that no man's zone. The quarterback makes the decision on which direction we're going to go. So if we wanted to add a motion to the field, because if you remember, we'll always set our twins to the field. If we want to have motion, we'll simply line him up into the boundary. Quarterback puts him in motion. If he were to hear 11 or a double-digit number, he sets up to the boundary. We motion him to the field, then we run the play. So it just gives us the ability to line up and kind of get a little movement going on as well without having to slow down. Now, if you're looking inside a NASCAR package, whatever you do is what you do. So, if you're making formation calls that are, say, like diesel right, hippo, whatever it may be, toss right, that's a lot easier to just say 1, and they know what play to run based on the formation that you've already got out there. So for our RPOs, stop is one of our second level RPOs that we will use. Okay. For us, our base play is what you might call dive, or some people might say, coach, that looks like duo, whatever you want to call it. And it's my 5 block and your 5. And we're going to RPO off a linebacker. Now, depending on the type of front that we're getting, depends on which linebacker it is, but it's always going to be a linebacker. And we are a true post-snap RPO team. I'm not having the quarterback count the box. I'm not having him, predetermined by how many people are there. We're going to snap the football. And if this guy plays the run, we throw the ball. If he plays the pass, we hand it off. So it's a true conflict. It's not a predetermined thing based on numbers in the box. So basic stop routes for us are 6 back to 4. And you'll see that we do it in a variety of formations, but it's always going to be the same play. Over here, if we had 4 eyes, or in an odd team that's given those pinch and 4 eyes, my kids will make a fox call on their own. I don't make that determination. The guards will kick out and we'll fold underneath, but we're still running the same play, still putting the same guy in conflict. This is an example of what we've got here. So this is our 2x2. Okay, and so you'll see here, one of the things that we teach our quarterback is if this safety is 9 yards or more, then the RPO is on. If he's tighter inside of that, and it takes the RPO off automatically, and it's going to be a give. I always tell my quarterback, if you give the ball every single time, you'll never be in trouble. So, that's kind of the default thing. If he's unsure, hand it off. Our 2 best players on our team are usually going to be the quarterback and the running back. We run our quarterbacks a lot. Been blessed to have those athletic guys that can do that and throw the football. So here, this would be the quarterback's read. The safety is at 10, right? So he's going to see, what does this guy do if he widens out or if he plays there. If he widens out for the pass, he'll hand it. If he freezes, right, he can go ahead and give it. The guy kind of steps inside, makes a nice pass, boom. He takes a 6 back to 4 yard stop and makes a big play out of it simply because a kid was indecisive on defense. And that's really what we're wanting to do. Here is an end zone view. You'll see he freezes, safety bails. It's a nice, easy pitch and catch. Turns into a big run. You'll see my kids are running down the field, right? Because linemen, they know, hey, coach is probably getting ready to call the play if we don't score. Here's another example of it. He gets a different defense. Same thing here, he gives. Okay, so we're going to keep the quarterback's reads consistent, right? It's going to always be a linebacker, right? You'll see here, this safety here's 10 yards. He's this far back. Excuse me. Here's the ball. He's this far back, so he knows that he can throw the stop route here. Okay? So he's going to make this guy the read. Okay. And it's a give. And once again, I'm never going to be mad at him for handing the ball off. Now, we've also got it built in, that if we've got base with stops called and they're giving us all this kid's a 6'4" receiver. This kid's been bailing. He's going to take the gift, right? And, hey, it's there. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it. And those guys will have communication between themselves. And, that's an easy pitch and catch for 4 yards, 5 yards every time. Okay, so the second thing we do is with our zone play, which is for us is zone read, where we're going to read the in-man line of scrimmage. We'll run snag behind it. This is what we call snag. You can run snag however you want to call it, right? So for us, we'll run it out of a 3-man version or out of a 2-man version. It does not matter. It's paired with zone. Okay, so our zone read here. So we'll try to put that same guy in conflict, right? So I guess an odd, we'll usually read the outside linebacker and we'll block the 5 guys in the box. So we're putting him in a true conflict because now he's supposed to be a C-gap player here or outside defender, and we're putting him in conflict between playing run or playing the bubble. So here's an example of it. I have a 3-by-1 look. They'll roll up, show us some man. My quarterback will pull it, but the receiver finds his spot and settles down. Easy pitch and catch. Same thing here. Okay. This is our tight end version. So we've got a tight end to the top. So we'll run the 2-mag snag down here. Okay. Quarterback gives it. Now, these are 2 different years that you're looking at, 2 different quarterbacks. We've done the same system for the last 2 years. Here it is out of Brown. I love it out of this 2-man split back because you get an option pitch with it. Quarterback there simply kind of disrupts the throw a little bit, but out of our split back, he gets the option pitch or he can throw the snag. So like I said, that's a high throw. That kid's 6'4", so if he's throwing it that high, it's just not a very good throw. But it gives you the look there that we're trying to take advantage of. So from the box view, we're going to run zone, pull it, and he can make the throw. One of the other RPOs that we use in our package is counter and crawfish. So we will block counter, and we do it to the play side. We don't do it to the back side. I like making play side defenders make choices. Some of our RPOs are backside RPOs. A lot of our RPOs are play side RPOs. So we'll do it a variety of different ways. We'll put the running back sometimes to run counter. Sometimes we'll put them away. That way we just kind of give the defense different looks. But once again, we're going to try to put that same guy in a conflict. All right, so we'll run counter, and then we'll throw what we call crawfish or the receiver bubble to the play side of it. So here's an example out of a different formation. Right, this is what we call blue, but it'd be tray. So we have a tight end here. We're going to run counter to the tight end this time also, but we're going to have it with the bubble. Now, if you think about what we taught our quarterbacks earlier, he's going to read these safeties. He is way deep, right? So he's at 10, right? This is the read guy. He's playing off the line very tight. So quarterback pretty much knows pre-snap. He's got the bubble, throws it out there. Now, this guy gets caught. We gave him a bunch of heck for it, but, it's a pretty good game, so I'm not going to be too mad at him. But I want to go show you the end zone view here because this is a nice clear cut. This would be the quarterback's read. Okay, so if this guy steps down hard to play the counter because he's seeing down block, right, and with this guy being that deep, the bubble's there. If this guy were to expand on the bubble, he's going to give it, and there'll be nobody there for the kick, and we probably take it to the house. I think by putting the running back to it and having them cross in front of the quarterback really will suck these guys up. You can do it counter different ways. Sometimes we'll put them on the back side of it and run to it, but I like to put them on the front side, have them step down, cross over, come back out of it because it really makes these guys on the edges commit harder. Great blocks by the receivers. And a lot of the times that, if you're running RPOs, your receivers don't do a whole lot of blocking, but when they're asked to, they block their butts off because they know, hey, if, I could be getting the ball any minute. When my teammate gets the ball, I better do something for him. So we've been lucky that our receivers, understand those concepts and they work hard for each other. Here's another example. This is out of our 3-by-1. Running counter, once again, to it. Okay. Got some good blocks on the edge. Put those guys in conflict. Now, against a 4-man front here, this would be the read guy. Okay. Now, he is inside this block, so the quarterback knows that this guy is safe because here's this guy, right, who's fairly deep. He's deep enough to be able to make the play, to be able to make the throw and get some yardage, so he knows that he's got position here for the bubble because this guy's too deep to make the play right away. Right. Now, for each one of these, remember, we're not calling counter, crawfish, whatever. I'm simply saying 4, 5, 6. They know, okay, we're on the right hash. We're running it to the field. They automatically know the RPO associated with each number. Okay. Here's another example of counter. Now, once again, we talked about because of the formation, we're going to have a sniffer. It's automatically counter stay, which means the backside tackle is not going to pull. He's going to block out. So it gives us a different variety of ways to run counter and get different looks without having to have a whole lot of terminology, without having to change a play. And then we've got the RPO associated with it. End zone view. Here gives a good view of the box. So this was the first year we were running this. So our quarterbacks were learning it at the time. We picked it up pretty good. So by the time we got into the first round of the playoffs, that's pretty much all we were doing. So for us, we have slant as another RPO. We run what we call lobster to power. We can run it either to the single side receiver or to the twin side. To a single side, it's simply a slant. Okay. To a twins or trips, you're going to get a slant at what we call he will turn his back to the sideline, backpedal, and go. Okay. And then if you're the single side receiver, he knows he automatically has a slant. For our inside zone, where we're going to read a backside inside linebacker, we will throw a slant at him. So if he plays over the top to the front side zone here, we've got the slant where the quarterback can pull it and run it. If he stays where he's at and doesn't play hard over the top, it's a give. So we're able to run these out of different formations, and I'll show you here. Okay, for us, this is power. So we're in our sniffer set. We have twins over here to the single side receiver. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys on defense are thinking, there's no way I would ever play the corner that deep inside the 10, right? So we saw it. The quarterback was able to recognize it. This is the safety. He rolls himself down here, takes himself out of it. Quarterback sees it. Okay, it's quarterback. It's power. He pulls it, throws the slant. It's an easy pitch and catch. You'll see on the twin side, right, we're a little discombobulated. My number 1 is blocking. My number 2 should have on his back to it. This is the first play. This is our first game of the year that we put all this stuff in, so we weren't quite hitting on 100%. But you can see where we're putting guys in conflict to come down on run and then throwing the ball behind them on the play side. I'll go back to it here. All right, so we'll block down, J block, pull seal, and then throw the slant behind it. Out of one back, it becomes automatic quarterback power. So the running back would have the J block. So if we're in our NASCAR and we're in 3-by-1, we're in 2-by-2, it becomes automatic quarterback power. I'm not calling a different play. They just simply know, without us having to tell them, that one back means quarterback power. The running back becomes the J block. The linemen don't know the difference. They just know that it's power. So they know they're going to block down, pull seal. And then depending on if we're in 2-back, then it's automatically running back power. So once again, we don't have to slow down. We don't have to use additional verbiage. We don't have to use anything else. The kids automatically know it. Okay. Here it is again out of the tray set. So the tight end is here, twins over here. Okay. We're going to run it to the single side receiver here. Now, like I said, this is early in the year, 2 years ago, so we're kind of still making sure we're doing the right thing. So we will run a single side receiver slant. You'll see the safety comes down to play power. Quarterback makes the throw. Now, coaching point, we don't want our quarterback doing that. Okay, now this kid he's in college now, slippery. He's slick as oil, so I didn't, get too mad when he did things. But he should be catching it and running downhill to show power, to suck these guys up more. We don't want him catching it. If you look at him, he kind of runs lateral, right? We'd rather him be running this way to get these guys to commit more and then dump the ball over the top. Okay, but, he makes a great throw. Our track kid catches it and splits it and goes to the house. Looking at the end zone view, okay, you'll see what we mean by the quarterback here. We would rather him catch this ball and attack downhill at the J block, right, which is only going to make these other guys and the second-level guys suck up more. You'll notice his action here. He kind of rolls out a little bit. That's not what we want to do on power. For us, power is, an off-tackle, off-guard play. So we want him downhill. But like I said, I'm not going to be mad when he makes a play. And, umpire and those guys are trying to get out of the way. Okay. Here it is again, another power action. This time it's just a straight give. You'll notice that the defense isn't even lined up yet. They're still looking for calls, and we're snapping the football. In our NASCAR package, our kids pretty much knew that once we got inside the 10, it was going to be power. A lot of questions I'll get will be, Coach, what if you have an RPO built in? What if your quarterback throws it? He may do that, but it's all about coaching. It's the mindset that we'll teach him. That hey, once we get inside here, you're only throwing that unless it's foolproof. Once we get in there, we want to make sure we run it. Now the other version of that is, because NASCAR for us is a package, if I don't want the RPO to be an option, I simply won't call. We won't use NASCAR. We'll simply use one of our other tempos and play just as fast, but we'll be making the call from the sideline. Okay, so our next one is the inside zone. You've probably seen this, and it's gotten a lot more popular over the years here. Okay, but for us, our inside zone is we're going to read a backside inside linebacker. Okay, we're going to show front side zone. Our backside tackle will man up on the end. So we're looking to see if this guy plays over the top or commits hard. We're throwing us what we call a replacement slant behind him. We teach this receiver to basically run the slant where that linebacker is going to be. Because if he's not there, that's where we're throwing it, or the quarterback can pull it. Okay? So here, this is I believe our second-round playoff game. We're at Abilene Christian. So we've been bidding them pretty good, so they decide they want to man up. For us, man-ups, defensive coordinators say, oh, we'll just go man. Well, that's great, but if I've got dudes, that's not going to scare me. So our quarterback here makes a ballsy throw. Once again, I'm not going to, he's trusts himself. He trusts the receiver. He gets inside. You'll see in our end zone view here, I'll show you, number 36 is the read. So you'll see number 36 starts to commit to the run. And that opens up that little window there. Our quarterback trusts himself and trusts the receiver to make the play. Poor tackling by them, but we were able to score there. But the concept of the play, here it is again. Now, we put this play in fairly late, to take advantage of some of the things that teams are giving us. Now, this is an example of one of those things where, it's probably not what I want the quarterback to do, but it's my fault because I didn't take it off. But once again, he makes a good read, a little hesitation. The receiver makes the play. We come away with a penalty there. But that's not something as a coaching point that normally when we get inside there we want to do. Here it is again, showing the end zone view. Okay, 36 is still the read. We run that out of a variety of formations. Okay, here it is out of our split back. Once again, I like our split back look because it gives us the triple option look. We keep it consistent. This is not our zone read. This is our inside zone. But in order to keep it consistent with our kids and be able to play fast, we're telling our other running back, hey, you know how to, on zone read, you'll run the bubble behind for the option pitch. You're going to do the same thing. So the kids are picking up, spending more time, working on the fundamentals of the play rather than having to learn new assignments. Here it is again. So one of the things that we also do is we will have a third level RPO. Now, we have a couple different third level RPOs that aren't a part of our NASCAR package, right? Because we don't want to put a whole ton of things in that. So what we'll do is we RPO off quarterback stretch. He will read a corner. Okay. So in our NASCAR package, it's going to be basically automatic quarterback stretch, right? Because we're going to give him the option to read the corner. So basically, we like to run this to the single side receiver a lot of the time, right? Or into the boundary, because this guy right here is going to be worried about this receiver. If the corner were to step up and play the run, right, we'll dump it over the top for the touchdown. If he takes off and runs with the receiver, our quarterback will simply tuck it and run. Okay. Here's an option of that. Now, this is this last year. Okay. So my quarterback this year was more of a power guy than he was a stretch guy. He was also a lefty. So we're running the boundary. He sees that corner. He just tosses it up. Nice little easy play. You can't be mad at the corner. I mean, he's got no help. He's seeing it run to him, run to him, run to him. And then he comes up and we just toss it to the guy. Okay. Another example of that, here it is, the end zone view. Okay. So we're running stretch, right? Our running back's responsible for the guys out here. Pull it up, and then as soon as he sees that corner comes up, it's just a nice little toss over. Now, you'll probably have one of the questions I get asked a lot is like, coaches, what about your guys downfield? Do you use any specific calls? No, I don't, because in 6 years of running RPOs, we've had a guy called down the field twice, and both times it was the quarterback's fault. All right, so the quarterback's going to be making a decision. I don't want my offensive lineman worrying about, is it pass, is it run? They go out there and they run the play. So they're going to, if it's a run play, they're just going to be blocking their butts off and doing what they're supposed to do. My quarterback screws it up and holds the ball too long to make a play. That's on him. It's not on the O-line. I'm never going to be mad at those guys. But we don't use any additional calls to let them know, hey, don't go down the field. Okay, here's another look out of it. Right, this is our tight end pro set. So we got a tight end here. This time we're going to run it to the field, okay, because that corner takes off and runs with the receiver. That tells the quarterback automatically, hey, I'm going to run it. And once again, this view here, you should be able to see the quarterback's eyes. He's going to be looking out here. He's looking, he's looking, he's looking. He's now seen that corner take off, so he's going to tuck it and run. Another view, you'll see the offensive line is running stretch. They are going down the field. They don't care. Okay, so, as we're talking about hurry up, no huddle, and NASCAR package, it doesn't matter what you do. I spent 2 years at a wing T school where it's back-to-back state champions, right? And so that's where my background with formations comes into. And I like those formations. You can be the 3 yards in a cloud of dust type team if you want to be, right? But you can still implement a sort of a NASCAR package and having your package plays, right, to help yourself out. It's going to force the defense to play the whole field every play. Not only are they trying to keep up with you as far as your pace, but now they're being forced to say, hey, we've got to play all 4 receivers. We've got to play run and pass. For us, it keeps us out of bad plays without a ton of audibles. We have the meerkat look, where we can look to the sideline and check, but, having a NASCAR package allows us to play fast without having to do that, and it keeps me out of having bad plays. Allows us to control the tempo of the game. If you're running hurry up, no huddle, and you've got a NASCAR type package that allows you to go even faster, and then you implement freeze and you implement your other type of looks, once again, you're going to keep the defense on their heels because they're not sure what's going to go on. And you get your playmakers the ball in space. If you got 9 guys running up to make a tackle, and all of a sudden, as you see,
quarterback flips it out to that guy. Well, that's a lot of space for guys to make plays. And, you want your best playmakers getting the ball. And then once again, your guys who are no disrespect to any receivers coaches, some of those guys are divas. You guys work way hard. They don't want to spend a whole lot of time blocking. They want the ball on their hands. So when you're implementing a hurry up, no huddle, and you've got RPOs with it, those guys know that, hey, any given play, I could get the ball, so I better be taking care of business. For us, the conclusions for us came pretty quick. In 24 games, we had over 10,000 yards of offense. We had 10 interceptions in 24 games. Do we drop back pass? Yeah, we do. But with the things that we're doing, we're keeping ourselves in third and manageable. And a lot of times we're not having to drop back pass as much. My quarterback's making good decisions. Of those 10 interceptions, 2 of them were off the receiver's hands. So my quarterback threw 8 interceptions in 24 games. We're running the football. That's what we want to do. A couple of those examples that I showed you, the guys caught it, took it to the house. But we're running the football. That's what we want to do. It helped my offensive line out because we had less than a sack a game. And so in 24 games, we've given up 20 sacks. Once again, if you're not asking those guys to drop back and try to pass pro 60 times a game, you allow them to get out there and get physical and wear those guys down in the run game. When you do drop back pass, it helps your defense. It helps your offensive line out. So, those things that for us really helped our offense out. If you're an average athlete team who's playing against guys who are bigger, stronger, faster, and you decide that you want to play hurry up and no huddle and use a NASCAR type package, you're going to even out the playing field. If you're a team that's got good athletes who can play and you implement this type of offense, well, now you're going to take it up to another level of teams that can't keep up with you no matter what they do. That's just my opinion. But, Coach, that's pretty much everything I got there. If anybody has any questions, that's basically all we got. If anybody wants to talk any of the RPOs or NASCAR stuff that we have, there's my Twitter, and they can always get a hold of me.
Here's a question, Coach. It's a two-part question.
Sure.
What is the running back's footwork for same side counter, and how do you teach the quarterback reads on that, as it may vary?
Okay. So for the same side, he's basically going to open up, crossover, plant, and go. And on the same side reads, basically a lot of the times what we'll do out of that is, if we're in NASCAR, he knows that it's same side. If we're not in our NASCAR package, it's going to be depending on what we're calling with it. So we're able to run counter with 2 different looks, and he's able to do 2 different things to kind of keep away tendency stuff. And the second part of the question was?
How do you teach the quarterback reads on that, as it may vary?
Okay, so his first rule he's going to learn is safety depth. All right, so in any of our RPOs, his first thing is he's going to look out and see where the safety is. If the safety is 9 yards or deeper, then he knows the RPO is in play. Other than that, it's going to be he's going to get his eyes on the conflict player as soon as the ball snapped. We basically tell him if the guy can make the play on a pass, then we just hand it off. And here's the deal: we can't just talk about it. We'll go out, and if you see our half-line read drill, we'll implement that RPO part of that as we progress in the drill, so that he's not making any really what do I do type decisions. He's got it down pretty packed. So basically what we tell the guy all the time is if he can make any type of play on the pass, it's always going to be a give. And that's what we want him to do. Now, as you can see in the video, as your quarterbacks get more and more confident in it, they're making those throws because they've run it so many times, and they're confident in the receivers and in themselves to make those tight window throws that a lot of high school kids won't make.
No, absolutely. Does any other coaches have any questions for a coach? Obviously, his Twitter's up there. So if anybody does have questions that come to him later on, man, feel free to hit him up and chop it up with him. How does your quarterback do the cadence?
Sure. Go.
Simple enough.
That's what we do. In our 2-look, it will be we use a green, and he'll simulate the snap, and then he'll look. And then if we don't change the play, it's clap and go. So we pretty much use go and the clap. We don't have a whole lot of cadences because we're not worried about that. So we're a one-word play call team, and questions I'll get is, Coach, aren't you worried about the defense hearing those plays over and over again? Not really, because by the time they process what the word is, we're snapping the football.
Yeah.
You know, so the repetition doesn't really matter to me. And when we're in our NASCAR, a lot of times they're just hearing a number. My O-line already knows what the play is.
Another question here. Without without giving away too much, how many tempos do you have and use?
Sure. So we have – give me a second here real quick. I got a slide for it. I had a different version for this. Okay, so we have our rally version, which is it's no two look, it's signal formation, play, and RPO.
Coach, I think you have to share the new screen.
Okay. We good here?
Yes, sir.
All right. So Ricky Bobby here. We just want to go fast. Our rally is no two look. We signal formation, the play, and the RPO. So that is one of our main operating speeds as well. It's not the NASCAR package. We're telling them what the play and the RPO is. So we're signaling both. The cadence just is line up and go. Attack is the same play, the same formation. So I just ran power for 6 yards. They're trying to get somebody on the field. I can just go attack, attack, attack. And our kids line up, run the same play.
So, Coach, you just say that? You just say attack, or do you say
we just say it. We've got a signal for it, but, we don't really use it. The kids are looking at us, and we're going attack, 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 whatever it is we do, and they line up and hear it. We also have freeze, and then we have our NASCAR. Each one of these has their own unique thing. Rally and NASCAR sound a lot alike, but this allows me to change the formation, the play on the RPO without huddling and without having to do too much. NASCAR is just one. Only thing I'm saying is 1, 2. My sideline coaches are only signaling numbers.
Right. Any other coaches? Questions? I think we're good, Coach.
All right.
Really appreciate it, man. Definitely a big shout out to all the coaches that were in here and got a chance to learn and get better. And, of course, to you, Coach, for taking the time out of your day, man, to give us a great presentation. Really appreciate that. And once again, guys, Coach obviously gave y'all his Twitter, man. So if y'all have questions, hit him up. It's the time to talk some ball. So really appreciate that, Coach.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks, guys.